Bryant School, 1950 to 1980, Part 2.
Memories. We also had a part-time nurse we shared between other school buildings. My teacher once put a band-aid on my arm because I was bleeding from the playground. She told me, "You'll be fine. Stop crying." Kelvin Stanford, 1964 to 70.
Summer Cultural Enrichment Program, 3rd through 6th graders. 3-day trip adventures included ballet at the Performing Arts Center in Saratoga Springs, State Museum in the State Education Building, National Thoroughbred Racing Museum in Saratoga Springs, Saratoga National Park, the site of the American victory over the British in 1777, Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and May Day trips including Strassenberg Planetarium and the George Easton House, Summer 1969 Evening Tribune. Memories. In the summer between 5th and 6th grade, my mother signed me up for the summer enrichment program. We went to Albany and stayed overnight at the college. We had to watch the opera Swain Lake in the amphitheater. I was sure it had to be 95 degrees in the hot sun, no shade anywhere. It was long and miserable. To this day, I dislike opera and ballet. We also went to Buffalo to see Oliver. I did enjoy that. The following year, our school play was Oliver. My teacher over the summer was Miss Daly, later Miss Felly B. Kramer, sister. Kelvin Stanford, 1969.
Bryant's Bicentennial Blast, Riot Bicentennial Blast day-long celebration. Each class selected a project. Some classes made butter, other classes made candles, rags, rugs, etc. Everyone enjoyed lunch on the lawn and the sack race, tug-of-war games, and the beneficial decorations.
Bookworm. Brian's children love the worm. Each class can add a segment to the worm when 20 children have read and reported on a book. When the child finishes reading a book, he or she comes to a teacher, to me, or any staff member, and describes the book. Since the project started during National Book Week in November, the worm was grown down one corridor, around a corner, and halfway down a wall. December 1st, 1974, Spectator.
System 80, the Convention Library, has now developed into a specialist multimedia learning center at most of the city schools. The learning center at the Bryant School is typical. February 8th, 1976, Sunday Spectacular.
My kindergarten teacher was Miss Westcott, and her classroom had a door, which led to the playground, where we'd occasionally go out to play and get some exercise. Sitting in our classroom was a children's slide that we played on, which had a gray elephant painted on each sideboard. After our playtime, we'd be given a half pint of milk and a straw, some saltine crackers, and then a Dixie cup with a small wooden spoon. We'd then lay on the floor on towels that we had brought in for some nap time. Classmate Joanne Masella remembered us gathering chairs from along a wall into a circle and hearing stories read by our teacher. I remember that we practiced tying our shoes in this class. There were a couple of occasions where a classmate would have a bodily function accident, and Miss Westcott would take them into the bathroom adjacent to the coat room and clean them up. Miss Westcott remains a saint. Our flag had 48 stars at the time. David L. Smith, Bryant School, 1958 through 65. Cornell High School class of 1971.
In first grade, we saw a globe for the first time and found our country on it. At the time, the space race was on, and there was excitement in the launching of NASA's spacecraft, which had many of the boys in class wanting to be astronauts when they grew up. This was during the Cold War, and whenever the school would sound the air raid siren, we'd crawl under our desk, duck and cover, or stand next to an interior wall and cover our heads. Back then, our school day started with the taking of attendance, followed by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. David L. Smith, Bryant School, 1958 through 65.
In second grade, we were introduced to the Weekly Reader newspaper and would learn about events happening in the country around the world. I remember that we were each given a cup with potting soil and got to plant a seed which we placed on a shelf near the windows to watch it grow throughout the school year. Our class got to take a field trip to a farm. Classmate Norm Ellis remembers a field trip to Bardeen Farm, and classmate Darla Scheinberger remembers a field trip to Stevens Farm, which her mother accompanied as a chaperone. I found an authorization form that my parents would have signed to allow me to go on the field trip to Ellis Farm, but I was sick and could not go. David L. Smith, Bryant School, 1958 through 65, Cornell High School class of 1971.
Remembrances from the 1958 through 65 years. In fourth grade, our teacher, Mrs. Graham, gave each of us an 8-piece plaster of Paris nativity set for Christmas. We typically painted them in various colors at home, and 3 of us still have the set. The prize for winning the classroom spelling bee was a Porcelain bust of George Washington.
In fifth grade, our teacher, Miss Gray, gave us a class project where we selected or assigned a country in Middle South America and were asked to write to that country's embassy in Washington, D.C., asking for information on that country. The Costa Rican embassy sent me a large brochure on the country of Costa Rica. David L. Smith, Bryant School, 1958 to 65, HHS, class of 1971.
Up until 6th grade, we largely spent the day in our homeroom and different teachers would come in, depending on the subject. But in 6th grade, we began moving to other classrooms for different subjects, probably to prepare us for what we'd encounter moving to junior high school in the next year. My recollections were that for our class, the art teacher would come into our homeroom. For gym class, the boys and then the girls would leave for an hour a couple times, Tuesday and Thursday a week. We would also have time in the library, and we also had music class with Mr. Angel, which I believe was in the gymnasium while sitting on metal chairs. David L. Smith.
Remembrances from the 1958 to 65 years. In addition to the farm trip in 2nd grade and the field trip to the post office in 3rd grade, there were other field trips that were special. To Corning Glass Works, the Shrine Circus at the Rochester War Memorial, and to Stony Brook Park. For the trip to the Rochester War Memorial to watch the Shrine Circus, I remember the excitement as we formed under a large awning by the south entrance before getting on the bus. My classmates who came to school each day from out in the country were used to riding on school buses. But for many of us city slickers, riding on the school bus was a thrill in itself. I brought a Schrinner's Fez and a tin trombone and contributed to the noise on the ride home. By David L. Smith, Bryant School, 1958 to 65, Cornell High School, class of 1971.
From the 1958 to 65 years, the 6th grade boys also took part in interscholastic competitions in basketball and softball. The schools that Bryant School played against were Columbia North Cornell, Washington Irving School, and Lincoln School. I played garbage time minutes in a game against Lincoln in which Bryant won. Bryant School would win the softball title, and Columbia North Cornell would win the title in basketball. Mr. Height coached both sports. David L. Smith, Bryant School, 1958 to 65 years. Cornell High School, class of 1971.
Remembrances from 1958 to 65 years. The 6th grade girls also took part in competition with other grade schools. Classmate Darla Scheinberger wrote me that she and Martha Denton were on Bryant School's bowling team, which took first place. Miss Castle had coached the team, and the girls practiced and bowled every Saturday at the bowling alley behind the Majestic Theater. She wrote, I had an awesome bowling trophy, heavy real metal with a solid wood base that was engraved at McHenry's by the school with my name. We each got one with our names, Mrs. Castle's name, and first place Bryant School Hornell Elementary Bowling League. David L. Smith, Bryant School, 1958 to 65. High School class of 1971.
Boys in the 6th grade had the duty of being on safety patrol for all the crosswalks leading to the school, and we wore a white crossing guard bell while on duty. We received the prestigious Officer Presley's Junior Traffic Safety Club Award from David L. Smith. We attended Bryant School from 1958 to 1965. We were the Hornell High School class of 1971.
Art show 70 on the fence with Mrs. Schuller.
Space vehicles with Mrs. Schiller.
On the stage in the gym showing artwork with Mrs. Scholler. For my Mrs. talent show, we had a talent show in one of our classes. One of my classmates, Darla Scheinberg, did a dance routine while accompanied by Mr. Basted on piano, and my turn, I sang the song of Fire Jaqua, David Smith.
100 Days has always been special at Bryant.